August 20th, 1942, 9:17 in the morning. The broken beach of Dieppe, France. The air smells like burned fuel, explosives, and salty ocean water from the English Channel. Captain Erich Feldgel, a German weapons expert with the 302nd Infantry Division, walks around the twisted metal remains of a landing boat. His shiny tall boots are covered in bloody sand and wet rocks. He and his team are doing the sad job of checking the battlefield. They are looking at what's left from the enemy's failed attack, and they think it's a joke. In front of him sits a tank. Its left track is broken. The crew left it behind. It is an infantry tank called a Valentine. This one, he says, tapping his notebook. The metal plate says it's not from Britain. It's from Montreal. Feldgel lifts his camera and takes a photo. He runs his gloved hand over the steel. It's a Canadian-built Valentine. It's one of the main tanks used by the 14th Canadian Army Tank Regiment, called the Calgary Regiment. Dozens of these tanks now sit on this beach, smoking like monuments to a terrible failure. Feldgel is a professional soldier. He's not here to celebrate. He's here to learn. He climbs onto the tank's body. The armor is thin. He measures the front plate 60 millimeters, the sides 60 millimeters, the turret 65 millimeters. Good enough, he tells his assistant, against our smaller 37 millimeter or 50 millimeter guns. But against our new 75 millimeter gun, it's like paper. He drops down and looks at the main gun. It is tiny, a 2-pounder, 40 millimeters. His assistant smirks. Useless against our Panzer IV tanks. Feldgel agrees. On the Eastern Front, his colleagues are fighting the Russian T-34 tank with its special sloped armor and powerful 76 millimeter gun. The German army is now using the long, barreled Panzer IV F2, and they're whispering about new prototypes called Tiger. This is what the Allies are sending. This slow, weak, boxy little infantry tank. He finds the engine area. It's been hit, but he can see the maker's plate a General Motors diesel engine. An American engine in a British-designed, Canadian-built tank. A mixed-up creation, he notes. His final report to Berlin will be professional and factual. But the hidden message is clear. The Canadian war machine, just like the failed raid itself, is amateur. It is light equipment. It is a colonial army pretending to fight a real war, making second-rate copies of second-rate British designs. When his report is shared from the high command to the tank depots in France, everyone agrees. The crews of the Panzer Division, the best armored instructors, read the numbers. A top speed of 15 miles per hour. A 2-man turret crew where the commander also has to load the gun. They laugh. A panzer commander, drinking coffee in a captured French castle, reads the report. The Canadians are sending us Valentines, he says. Let them come. We will send them flowers for their graves. Miles away, in the huge, roaring factory of the Canadian Pacific Railway's Angus shops in Montreal, the joke is not understood here. There is no laughter. There is only the loud thwack thwack of riveting guns and the bright white light of welding torches. This is the beating heart of Canada's war industry. Foreman Jin looks out and wipes the grease from his forehead and checks a new tank body. These are not just copies. The British Valentines were riveted together. These are cast. The entire front section is one solid piece of Canadian steel. They are building them with Browning machine guns, not British guns. They are fitting them with reliable GMC diesel engines. They are not just putting tanks together. They are, for the first time, mass producing them. When the first one rolled off the assembly line in 1941, it was a huge national event. By 1942, they are making them in huge numbers. The men and women of the Angus shops are not building a light weapon. They are building, with all the industrial power their young country can gather, a tool of freedom. They build one every 20 hours. Most are shipped to the Soviet Union, where surprisingly, Red Army crews praise how reliable they are, very different from their own T-34 tanks. But hundreds are kept for the Canadian Army. By 1944, the Valentine itself is officially outdated, replaced in the main armored groups by the American M4 Sherman tank. The German opinion from Dieppe seems to have been proven correct. The Valentine was a temporary fix, a training tank. The German intelligence officers in Normandy, preparing for the coming invasion, check their identification charts. They are focused on the Sherman, the Churchill, the new Cromwell tanks, the Valentine. It is a footnote, a joke from 1942. No one is expecting to see them. No one is expecting them to be dangerous. The laughter born on the beaches of Dieppe is about to die in the hedgerows of Normandy. June 9th, 1944, 4:30 in the afternoon. Just south of Audrieu, near Caen. The heat is unbearable. The air is filled with the sweet, sickening smell of apple blossoms, dead cattle, and explosives. Trooper Ken, Shorty, Moffat of the Fort Garry horse wipes sweat and dust from his goggles. He's the gunner in a Sherman M4A4 tank, part of the 2nd Canadian Armored Brigade. His throat is raw from shouting over the noise of the engine and the endless chatter on the radio. Movement! 2 o'clock! In the trees! His commander, Sergeant Bill Hawley, yells from the turret. Moffat turns the 75mm gun. He sees it, a flicker of German field gray uniform.
Sir AFK!
The sound is terrifyingly familiar. It is not a rifle. It is not a machine gun. It is the flat, supersonic crack of a Pak-40, a 75mm anti-tank gun. A solid shot slams into the Sherman 3 tanks ahead of them. The tank stops suddenly, and a cloud of black smoke erupts from the open loader's hatch. Bail! Bail! Hawley screams. Just as a second anti-tank gun opens fire. Reverse! Reverse! The Sherman grinds backward, its tracks spinning in the soft mud, trying to get behind the small hill they just crossed. They're in a trap. The bocage, the ancient, thick hedgerows of Normandy, is a fortress. The Germans, specifically the veterans of the 12th SS Hitler Youth Division, have turned every lane into a killing zone. The Shermans, tall and easy to see, are perfect targets. Their 75mm guns, good for fighting infantry, are struggling against the well-dug in German positions. 500 meters away, hidden in a collapsed stone barn, Sergeant Dieter Ulrich watches the kill. His Pak-40 crew is already reloading. Another one, he says, his voice calm. They are predictable. They come over the hill. We hit their bellies. Wait for the next one. His men are elite soldiers. They are veterans of Russia. These Canadians, they are brave, but they are clumsy. They fight by the book. Gun ready. His loader shouts. Ulrich puts his eye to the sight. He sees the next Sherman coming over the hill. Target. Wait. Suddenly, his lieutenant grabs his shoulder. Halt! Listen. Ulrich takes his head away from the sight. He hears it over the sound of the burning Sherman and the distant artillery. A different engine. A diesel. Not a gasoline engine, a steady Sea Lion K Sea Lank. Slower. Lower to the ground. What is that? The lieutenant asks, raising his binoculars. Is it a Bren carrier? No, Ulrich says. It's a tank, but it's not a Sherman. It's small. A low, Boxy shape inches over the ridge. Its body barely clears the grass. Ulrich squints. He knows his identification charts. It can't be. It is a Valentine. He says, almost laughing. The one from Dieppe. What is this? A joke. The lieutenant is staring. Dieter, the gun. Look at the gun. Ulrich looks back through the sight. The shape is familiar, but the gun is not. It is impossibly long. It extends far beyond the body, a thin, threatening needle. It is not a 2-pounder. It is not even a 6-pounder. It looks like the 17-pounder. The British miracle gun. The only Allied gun that can kill a Tiger tank. But it is not supposed to be on a Valentine. On the ridge. The crew of the Achilles tank destroyer has their target. The vehicle is a 17-pounder self-propelled gun. The British had rushed them into service, mounting the massive gun on an American M10 chassis. But the Canadians had received theirs too. And many were built on the chassis they knew best, the reliable, low-profile Valentine chassis built in Montreal. The Canadian gunner, his sight locked on the muzzle flash from the barn, does not wait. On target. Fire! The Achilles lurches violently. The 17-pounder cannon erupts in a massive blast of smoke and flame. The armor-piercing shell crosses the 500 meters in less than a second. It does not explode. It simply hits. The shell, a tungsten dart, punches straight through the thick metal shield of the Pak-40, destroys the gun, and kills Dieter and his entire crew in a single devastating impact. The lieutenant, 10 feet away, is thrown against the stone wall. He is deafened, his face cut by stone chips. He stares in disbelief at the smoking, ruined barn. The low, slung tank, the Valentine, is already reversing, disappearing behind the ridge before the German mortar teams can even find it. It was a phantom, a ghost from 1942. The laughter in the German ranks has stopped. The light equipment, from Montreal, dismissed and forgotten, had just become the deadliest tank destroyer on the field. The Canadian mechanics had taken their reliable joke and given it the biggest, deadliest weapon the Allies had, and it was just getting started. June 9, 1944, 4:32 in the afternoon, south of Vaudreuil. In the turret of his Sherman, Sergeant Bill Hawley lets out a breath he didn't know he was holding. The air stinks of the dead tank gun crew. What in God's name was that? His driver, Trooper Moffat, crackles over the intercom. That. Hawley says, keying his microphone for the whole group, was the Wublin Goblin. That was an archer. He looks through his binoculars. The low, slung tank that had saved them is already gone, its shape vanishing behind the smoke. The Archer. It was the official name for the 17-pounder self-propelled Valentine. A mouthful. To the crews, it was a Wublin Goblin, or just the Archer, and it was a uniquely Canadian solution. When the British designed the Archer, they ran into a simple physics problem. The Valentine chassis, built in Montreal's Angus shops, was small and light. The 17-pounder cannon was a monster, long, heavy, and with a kickback that could tear a small tank apart. The only way to fit it was to mount it backwards, facing over the engine deck. The result was one of the strangest-looking fighting vehicles of the war. It drove into battle facing its own rear. The driver sat at the front, while the gunner and commander were in an open, topped fighting area at the back, staring in the direction of travel. To a German panzer commander, it looked ridiculous. It looked like a tank in permanent retreat. But to a Canadian anti-tank gunner, it was genius. It was a perfect ambush weapon. You could drive the Archer into a hidden position. A barn, a dip in the road, a gap in the hedgerow, and you were already in a firing position. To get out, you simply drove away. No 3-point turns under fire. No exposing your thin rear armor. You just hit the gas and vanish. July 12, 1944. 1100 in the morning. Operation Charnwood, the push for Kane. Hauptmann Rolf Schenk, a Panzer veteran, looks out from the top of his Panzer IV-H tank. He's disgusted. This is not war. This is a war of rats, fighting ditch by ditch. His orders are to hold the village of Rots. He has his tank and 2 Stug assault guns hidden in a perfect L-shaped ambush. The main road is zeroed in. The Canadians will come, as they always do, with their high-profile Shermans. Radio contact, his operator reports. Enemy armor advancing. 4 tanks. Shermans. Schenk asks, cleaning his sight. Affirmative. And one other unknown type. Looks like a Valentine. Schenk laughs. The deep joke! Ignore it. It's bait or a command vehicle. Target the Shermans first. Let them come to us. The Canadian column is a mix 2 Shermans, followed by an archer from the 3rd Anti-Tank Regiment RCA, followed by another Sherman. The archer's commander, Lieutenant Dave Kingscote, is scanning the skyline. His vehicle, Aberdeen, is clanking along in its strange reverse advance. The open top compartment is hot, the air thick with diesel fumes from the engine just below them. Feels naked. His gunner mutters, feeling the open air above his head. Keeps you alert, Kingscote says. And it's a hell of a view. See that crossroads. The stone wall. That's where I'd put a gun. I see it. Driver, Kingscote orders, pull us into that gap in the hedge. Slow, just the gun. Give me a clear shot of that wall. The archer drives forward, which is to say it backs into the gap. The long 17-pounder needle pokes through the leaves. The engine idles. The 2 lead Shermans roll past, advancing toward the crossroads. In his Panzer IV, Rolf Schenk's pulse quickens. The trap is sprung. First target. Lead Sherman. Fire! The Panzer IV's 75mm gun cracks. The shell hits the lead Sherman, which bursts into flames. Second target. Schenk barks, but before his gunner can turn the turret, his radio operator screams, Achtung! Tank! 9 o'clock! The Valentine! Schenk swivels his cupola. From a hedgerow he hadn't even checked. It looked too small for a tank. The gun is pointing at him. It is the long, terrifying profile of a 17-pounder. And it's not turning. It's not advancing. It's just watching. Schenk stares at the tank. It's backwards. The driver is at the other end. He realizes with cold sickness that this wasn't an advance. It was an ambush. They were the bait. Gunner. Traverse! Traverse left! But they are in an ambush position designed to fire forward. To turn the turret 90 degrees takes precious seconds. In the Archer, Aberdeen, Lieutenant Kingscote is ice calm. Target acquired, sir. The Panzer. He sees us, Kingscote notes. The German turret is turning. Too slow. Firing. The Archer jumps as the 17-pounder fires. The shell is invisible. For Rolf Schenk, the world simply ceases to exist. The round hits the Panzer IV's 80mm front plate and goes through it like cheese. The superheated metal turns the inside of the tank into an inferno. The Panzer IV explodes. Its turret lifts 6 inches off the ring before slamming back down. The 2 Stogs, seeing their commander's tank, destroyed by a ghost, panic. They fire smoke and reverse into the village streets. The obsolete, Valentine, the light equipment from Montreal, has just killed one of Germany's finest in one of its best tanks. The news spreads through the German armored corps like a virus. The Canadians are not just using old tanks. They're using them in ways no one expected. They are quiet. They are low. And they are armed with the deadliest gun on the battlefield. Suddenly, every hedgerow, every small barn, every ditch is a threat. The joke from Dieppe is now the boogeyman of Normandy. August 8th, 1944, 5:10 in the morning. The road to Falaise, south of Caen. Operation Totalize. The pre-dawn dark is alive with the metallic cough of engines and the low, tense murmuring of thousands of men. Lieutenant Mike Peel, Royal Canadian Engineers, tastes chalky dust and the iron tang of his own fear. He is standing next to a huge, stopped Sherman tank, arguing with a major from the Fort Garry Horse. "Sir, my men can't clear it. Not in the dark." "I don't have a choice, Lieutenant." The major snaps, his face a pale mask in the gloom. The Air Force has carpet, bombed. But intel says the 12th SS RE mined the whole field. That road, that is the attack. If we can't get the armor through, the whole operation stalls, and the infantry gets slaughtered. Peel looks down the road. It is a perfect, flat, straight Roman road flanked by fields. And it is a perfect, flat, straight killing field. He can smell the mines, the freshly turned earth, the telltale scent of explosives. 2 kilometers away, in a well-prepared trench system under a farmhouse, Sergeant Kurt Vogel of the 12th SS Pioneer Battalion allows himself a thin, proud smile. His Devil's Garden is a masterpiece 3 layers deep. Teller mines to break a tank's track, interlaced with bouncing Betty S. mines to shred the infantry that would inevitably follow. The road is not just blocked, it is plugged. He and his men had worked all night under the thunder of distant bombers, replacing the mines the planes had disturbed. He listens. He hears the low rumble of the Canadian armor. "See Lienk" squeak. Then, as expected, the lead tank stops. Vogel chuckles to his corporal. They smell it. They're afraid. Now they will send the poor infantry with a mine detector, or worse, a bayonet. Wait for the flare. Then let the MG-42s sing. His machine gun teams, dug in with perfect overlapping fields of fire, check their belts. They are waiting for the Canadian soldiers to try and clear the field by hand. Back at the Canadian line, the major points his chin. "You're not clearing it by hand, Peel. You're clearing it with that." Peel turns. Through the pre-dawn haze, a shape is clanking forward. It's a low, boxy silhouette, a Valentine, but it has a weird-looking contraption mounted on the front. A massive horizontal drum bristling with thick, heavy chains that drag on the ground. It is a Valentine Flail tank, attached from the 79th Armored Division's Funnies. The chassis Peel recognizes is Canadian Angus Shop's Montreal. The tank, named Bad Attitude, in rough white paint, pulls up. The commander, a British sergeant from the Royal Engineers, nods to Peel. "Morning, Yank. Canadian." Peel growls. "Right. You're up. Your infantry is right behind me. Tell your boys to stay back 100 yards. This gets messy. The driver of Bad Attitude, a corporal from Quebec named Leclerc, gives his levers a reassuring pull. He had worked in the Angus shops. He knew this GMC diesel engine wouldn't fail. "What is that thing?" the major asks. "It's a Flail, sir. It beats the ground to death," Peel says. "If it works," the sergeant says over the radio. "Driver, rotor on." Leclerc engages the power takeoff with a deafening rising WWII. It sounds like a giant's buzzsaw. The drum begins to spin faster and faster, 140 RPM. The chains, each weighing several pounds, blur into a solid, thrashing wall of iron. Driver, advance. 5 miles per hour. No faster, no slower. Oh wee. Bad attitude lurches forward, its engine screaming over the sound of the flail, and enters the devil's garden. In his trench, Kurt Vogel's jaw drops. Was ist das? A wheat thresher. A combine harvester. He watches, frozen in disbelief, as the tank deliberately drives into his minefield. The first chain hits a pressure plate. K-bone! A teller mine erupts in a fountain of black earth and smoke just in front of the tank. The explosion is massive. The Valentine shudders but keeps coming. Boom! Cable! Boom! The flail beats the earth. A relentless mechanical demon, setting off mine after mine. It is carving a 10-foot wide path of cleared, churned soil. Fire! Fire at it! Vogel screams. His MG-42s open up. The green tracers ping and spark off the tank's hull. But the Valentine, designed as an infantry tank, has armor thick enough to shrug off machine gun fire. A young panzer grenadier, next to Vogel, raises a Panzerfaust. He takes aim at the tank's side. He fires. The shaped charge rocket streaks across the dark and hits. It strikes the spinning, thrashing wall of chains. The charge detonates on the flail, shredding a dozen chains and shattering the arm. But the blast is dissipated, deflected. It never touches the tank's hull. Bad attitude doesn't even slow. In the driver's seat, Corporal Leclerc is blind, driving purely by the commander's instructions. His hands are vibrating so hard his teeth ache. The noise is inhuman. The chassis, the good Montreal steel, is holding together. Lieutenant Peel watches, his heart in his throat. The tank is a monster, breathing in smoke dust and the orange flashes of its own detonations. It clears the 300-yard minefield in 3 minutes. It reaches the far side, stops. The flail winding down, a silence, heavy and absolute, falls over the battlefield. The devil's garden is broken. Signal the FGH. The major says, his voice hoarse. The breach is open. Peel turns to his infantry. Go! Go! On the flanks of the road! Follow the tanks. He blows his whistle. The silence is broken by the roar of 24 Sherman engines firing to life. The Fort Garry horse tanks surge forward, 2 by 2, down the safe, beaten path carved by the Valentine. For Kurt Vogel, the battle is over. His masterpiece is ruined. His position is flanked. The joke tank, the combine harvester, without firing a shot, completely destroyed his defense. The reliable, adaptable, Canadian-built chassis, once dismissed as light equipment, had proven that winning a war wasn't just about the size of the gun. It was about having the right tool for the job. And the Valentine, it turned out, was the toughest toolbox on the field. August 14th, 1944, 11:20 in the morning. The village of St. Lambert. The air is thick with the stench of the Falaise pocket. It is a nauseating mix of explosives, dead livestock, and the panicked, oily smoke of burning German vehicles. This is the escape route, the corridor, and the entire German 7th Army is trying to force its way through this one narrow gap. For the Canadians, the order is simple: close the gap. Corporal Tom, Mouse. Gagnon, 27th Armored Regiment, the Sherbrooke Fusiliers, has his eyes pressed to the driver's slit. He's not in a Sherman. He's in Angus Pride, a Valentine Mark X. He is the Rex Troop. The Germans laughed at the Valentine for being small, slow, and undergunned. By 1944, so did most of the Allies. But the Sherbrooke CO knew exactly what he had. The Shermans were tall, noisy, and drank gasoline. Their silhouettes were unmistakable. The Valentine, with its low, slung Montreal, built chassis and its quiet, reliable GMC diesel engine, was a ghost. For reconnaissance it was perfect. Easy Mouse, his commander, Lieutenant Sharp, whispers over the intercom from the turret. Into the courtyard. Slow. Don't throw a track. Gagnon eases the tank over a pile of rubble and into the shell of a farmhouse. The tank is small enough to fit inside the remaining walls, vanishing completely from the road. Sharp raises his binoculars. The main road through St. Lambert is a junkyard of burning panzers, horse-drawn carts, and retreating infantry. But something big, is holding the crossroads. In the command cupola of his K.O. Nigsteiger, King Tiger, SS Hauptmann Oskar Klauser of Panzerabteilung 503 scans the ruins. His 70-ton tank is a fortress. Its 88mm Keck K-43 gun, the long 8/8, has already destroyed 6 Canadian Shermans this morning. They burn like Ronson lighters. He is exhausted. His crew is strung out on Pervitin, but he is a professional. His orders are to keep this road open. He listens. He hears the high, pitched whine of Sherman radial engines to the south. Predictable. He hears the chatter of his own MG-42s to the west. He hears nothing else. They will try to flank us. Klauser says to his gunner. They will send Shermans down the main road. Wait for them. Let them come within 1,000 meters. Do not waste ammunition. He scans the ruined farmhouse 400 meters away. Nothing. Just rubble. He is looking for a Sherman. He is not looking for a light Valentine from 1942. Inside that rubble, Lieutenant Sharp's hand is shaking so badly he can barely hold his microphone. Grid 455-781. He whispers, his voice cracking. 1 Tiger. Repeat Koenigsteiger in the crossroads. Hull down behind a truck. He is stationary. In the driver's seat, Gagnon holds his breath. He is staring at the monster. His own gun, the 75mm the Mark IX had been upgraded with, is useless. To fire would be suicide. His entire purpose is not to fight, but to see. The German tank commander, in his high cupola, turns. He seems to be looking right at them. Jagnon's heart stops. Klauser stares at the rubble. He heard something. A faint thrum. A diesel. He dismisses it. It must be a generator or a burning truck. It is too small, too quiet to be an enemy tank. He turns his attention back to the main road. Rex 1. The radio crackles in Sharp's ear. Sunray copies. Good eyes. We have birds on station. Pop smoke. Mark the target. Sharp looks at his gunner. Smoke. Load smoke. On the road, just in front of him. Sir, just do it. Mark him. The Valentine's 75mm gun thumps softly, firing a smoke shell that lands 50 yards in front of the Tiger, painting the crossroads with a plume of white phosphorus. In the Tiger, Klauser roars, "They're blinding us! Infantry attack!" Gunner Scanda. He never finishes. A high-pitched, tearing shriek rips the sky. 4 Hawker Typhoons of the Royal Canadian Air Force, guided by the radio call, vectored by the smoke, dive from the clouds. Klauser's crew hears them for less than a second. The RP-360 Pounder rockets stream from the wings. They are not accurate, but 4 Typhoons firing a full salvo is a storm of high explosive. The rockets smash into the village square. One slams into the Tiger's rear engine deck. Another penetrates the thinner side armor. The 70-ton fortress detonates in a massive, catastrophic fireball. Holy hell! Gagnon breathes, watching the turret blown clean off, landing in a field. Driver. Sharp says, his voice ice calm, back us out. Slow, the way we came. The Valentine, Angus Pride, clanks backward. its reliable GMC diesel thrumming quietly and disappears into the smoke. It was never seen. The German tank commanders, who in 1942 had laughed at the light equipment from Montreal, were now being destroyed by it. The Canadian-built tank, the stopgap, the joke, had become the perfect instrument. It was a deadly anti-tank sniper as the Archer. It was a brute force breacher as the Flail, and it was a ghostly, unseen eye as a Rex tank. It never won the fame of the Sherman or the T-34. But the Valentine, built by the thousands in the Angus shops, was the quiet, adaptable, and utterly professional heart of the Canadian war machine. It did not just meet battlefield expectations. It rolled right over them, changing the rules of the game, one dead German tank at a time. If you enjoyed learning about this lesser-known part of World War II history, please like this video and subscribe for more untold stories from the war.